California streaming. That's what I'm doing right now. Oh my god, I just realized it. This makes so much sense. Can you believe it, guys? Apple confirmed the event. I checked the time stone this morning. I looked, as Stephen Strange did, into all of our potential realities and made sure to make a video about every possible subject moving forward. That's why you get those videos dropping so quickly. Thanks for tuning in. We got Stefan's Spawn. We've got August Amberson, of course, who's the first person who shows up every stream. If there was a first trophy to give August, I would give it to you. I think that the invite meaning is that the space satellite thing you did in the video the other day, they have the logo lighting up like a satellite would at night. Oh, that's a theory I haven't heard about. Most people are like Jabez115 here, saying they think this must be about always on display because of the glowingness look of the logo. So this is actually my confirmation how I knew that the invites were real. On Discord, there were quite a bit of trolling fake invites floating around, and people were trying to get everyone to give. And I'll admit, they got me a couple of times, but I didn't hit the publish button until I was absolutely sure. But this video is from Greg J on Twitter, who's a Apple chairman. And this was kind of the reveal before the AR demo was found. So they confirmed the September I don't need music, I guess. They confirmed the September 14th thing, and then of course if you tap on the invite image on the website with your iPhone, you can access this little Easter egg, and it's like it's actually a new file as a whole, which I thought was interesting. People were bringing up that this augmented reality object, which you can interact with and paste in different environments and look at the invite image in your own room or whatever. It's a new type of augmented reality file called .reality. So, of course, we get everybody saying the same thing again. Oh, this means Apple Glass, right? No, it doesn't. But apparently this is one of the first times an augmented reality object emits sound, and it does play music, and it plays a lot more music when you take your phone through the Apple portal and you go inside of it. But yeah, this glowing design is what's making a lot of people think it's always on display being talked about. I'm still unsure if that's going to be a standard feature for the whole lineup, but I know it makes a lot more sense to do it always on if you have LTPO OLED panels, which the Pros are rumored to have. I'm not sure if the regular 13 and 13 mini are rumored to have. So it's possible they could all have it, but I don't know, to be honest with you. Maybe .reality will be a new format made for Apple Glass. Oh, I'm sure. I mean, all this augmented reality kits and dev tools that Apple keeps showcasing, we all know this is going to very easily transition very cleanly over to Apple Glass if that does ever launch, or when that launches, I should say. But it's just a matter of how long is that actually going to take? It could be a while. Let's see. It could be a hint for the cinematic video feature since the logo is at the center, but admittedly it could be a bit of a stretch. Yeah, I would take that as a bit of a stretch, but I wouldn't say it's a stretch to assume more advanced video codec support, because ProRes was rumored, as was portrait mode video. But I think a lot of people were looking at like daytime, looking through the logo as like this nighttime of like the new dawn. For this invite image, a lot of people were taking that as improved night mode performance or astrology. For those curious, Apple rarely puts very much interesting content into these invite images. So as you can see, it's like daytime at Apple Park, but then as you enter it, it's more nighttime and you can see the stars. So this could easily be Apple talking really boldly about how great the dynamic range is now. You know, you can see brightness in the sun in the background and you're looking at the stars simultaneously, and that changes to night. But then nighttime changes back to day again. It's kind of complicated. It was actually shocking a lot of people, because if you go back and look at all of the different artworks for Apple events in the past, normally they give us at least somewhat of a hint with what colors we can expect. I'll pull up the past library here. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so obviously this is what we got today, but quadruple UDC, they got kind of lazy this year, reused last year's just Memojis looking at MacBooks, which a lot of us looked into. way too far, way too much, which is what we're doing today. Going too far in a few places, but essentially the idea, what a lot of people were speculating when they threw out these invites was that, oh, we're getting Face ID on the Mac because you can only get memojis on devices and emojis at least on devices that have the true depth camera system. So a lot of people are like, hey, also for people thinking that today's invite was evident of Apple Glass, I would have said this invite made far more sense because they literally have like Xcode documents and text and stuff showing up on glasses. And that, of course, didn't result in Apple Glass 420. Obviously, we got the just colorful artwork, like Spaghetti-O spectrum of colors came forward and lit up the screen for that invite. This was the M1 event, which was basically the whole entire event was a one more thing. All they talked about was the M1 chip and a couple new Macs. That design didn't change, but the chip was great. This was what we got last year, which had kind of the dark bluish tint to it, which a lot of people looked at as, oh, this is like evidence of the Pacific blue or the darker blue that ended up being on the 12 and 12 mini. Time flies. That one actually was a pretty decent confirmation considering it was about the Apple Watch and the iPad Air. So time flies kind of tied in with that more than I thought it was going to. Same kind of thing in WWDC last year. So in years prior, a lot of people typically, like the Gather Round event for the iPhone XS, that was all gold, and then there ended up being the gold option for the XS. A lot of people are unsure what this color scheme is kind of going for. Is it going for more of a vibrant, brighter blue, like 10R blue? Maybe that's coming back. And I've even seen a lot of people speculating that this kind of Monterey Bay imagery from California is evident that there could even be Macs at this event because we didn't really get a picture of Monterey for macOS Monterey. We just got, kind of the graphic purpley color option. And that's led some people to think we might see Macs at this event. I personally don't think so, but I could see why someone would assume that because oftentimes wallpapers do get intentionally or unintentionally confirmed through these announcements. Sunset gold. Yeah, that would be cool. I'm going to pause this. Sorry for Starlink acting up. We're still in beta. It should fix itself in a second here. If the iPad Mini 6 has the A15 chip and is coming out this September, then wouldn't the iPad Air get updated this month as well? Not necessarily. With that logic, they should have updated the iPad Mini when they updated the iPad Air. But from what we've read, there's rumored to be an OLED version of the iPad Air that comes out sometime next year. And I think Apple would rather just wait for that, considering I don't think anyone's using the iPad Air complaining that the A14 chip isn't fast enough. However, the iPad Mini 6 is the first upgrade to the iPad Mini we've had in, I think, 2.5 years. So I think it was March of 2019 when we got the Mini 5. That's when it just on the last generation got Apple Pencil 1 support, and now in this next generation it's supposed to be better, obviously, but updated design language and all that. I don't think that the switch from A14 to A15 is going to make a massive difference. If anything, it might just help with battery life a little bit, but Super Chat from Vigo says they could insult me the whole reveal still still buying. They could insult you the entire reveal and you'd still buy it. Yep, they pretty much got their hands on our pockets already. LB Lukaya says glowing Apple logo might mean always on display. Yeah, that's what a lot of people were speculating. I don't think that the back of the phone will have a glowing logo personally. I think that that's just going to complicate manufacturing too much and not really be noticed or appreciated very regularly. So I don't think that's what it is, but I know a lot of people love that. I'm honestly kind of a fan of just having the mirrored Apple logo finish on the back. I never cared for the glowing logos, to be honest with you. Stefan says, I'm tempted to trade in my iPad 6 before this event. Should I do it? I might want that iPad mini. See if you can sell it for better. Trade-in value is usually terrible. So if you can sell it used, that's way better. The Google speaker's just going off for no reason. It's probably being hacked right now. I'm guessing the iPad mini will have A14. I've heard both. I've heard some people say it will have A14, but other people... The thing to keep in mind with the chips is that they typically don't cost that much to manufacture. All of the expenses of Apple's silicon chips typically fall into the R&D and, you know, all of the research it takes to figure out how to manufacture it. But once you're mass producing it, it's pretty cheap. That's why slapping the A13 chip in the last iPhone SE was not very expensive or difficult for Apple, because they had already spent all the money on developing the chip. They were already mass producing it for the iPhone 11. So I could see something very similar here with the Mini 6. They've already designed and have started mass producing the A15 chip, because that's going in the iPhone 13 and everything in the lineup. So just porting some of those chips over to the Mini 6 is not that hard. And because Apple tends to not care about upgrading the iPad mini very regularly, it's possible that this Mini 6 we're about to get will be the only iPad mini change we see for another 2 or 3 years, potentially, if they don't feel like doing anything with it. Somebody special says, do you think AirPods 3 will be mentioned at the event, or do you think Apple will pull an Apple and announce it like a few days after/before the event? That one I'm also torn on, because Apple has chosen not to unveil or talk about AirPods much on stage ever since they announced them originally in 2016. So it's bizarre to me that they would save AirPods 3 to be on stage, but simultaneously Apple's done weirder things in the past with deciding for certain things to be, you know, website refreshes and certain things to be on-stage refreshes. So if they have enough to talk about, or if they want enough eyes on AirPods 3, I mean, it's possible that because AirPods 3 are so different, you know, maybe they have an updated H2 chip, or I think 52 Audio, who's been credited for leaking most of these AirPods, including AirPods 3, he was on the record saying that he expects them to start at $150. So if these end up being the cheapest AirPods of all time, Apple might want, you know, all of their iPhone fans who are watching the iPhone 13 event to know about that and know that option is there and available. So they would definitely get a lot of attention. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if, similar to what we've seen in the past, Apple talks about the boring stuff first and saves what we came for the end, which in this case would be the iPhone 13, I'd say, for most people. That's what everyone's looking for. So if you want to get a ton of attention on your accessories that normally would not get much attention, you tell everyone about this event, California streaming going on, you get everyone excited, and then you start the event with AirPods 3, something minor, something that's coming out but you want to sell in high volume. And then after that, we talk about the Apple Watch Series 7, and hey, look at all this new redesign, look how cool the steel looks, and it's squared off now and the display's bigger, yay, it's so great. Also, all your old watch bands don't work anymore, suckers. They do that, and then at the very end, they're like, hey, also iPhone 13, I guess. One more thing, by the way, iPhones. Streaming equals improved video quality and improved 5G, and the background could be rose gold plus astrophotography. I suppose rose gold is sounding more likely, but improved 5G, I don't know about that much. Or improved video quality. I wonder what you mean by that. Do you just mean ProRes? I don't know. I think that streaming, California streaming, could literally just be them referencing the fact that they are in California, and that's it. I mentioned that in the server earlier. I don't think Apple will continue selling the Series 3. I hope not. I don't think it needs to be sold into 2022. It's so old already. I doubt that AirPods 3 will come in colors, especially since the Pros don't have colors, but the Maxes do. So that consistency doesn't make sense either, but yeah. Did you see the new hash flag on Twitter for the Apple event? That seems to be teasing a rose gold color and a version of blue for the iPhone. I haven't seen the hash flag yet. Let me check. I used the hashtag in my announcement tweet, so it should be there. Oh, I see it. It's like a sunset. Let me see if anyone's blown this up. Yeah, not really well, but you can just barely see it there. It's basically a blue and bronze gradient. Wow. This tweet was earlier. This aged actually really well. Look at this. The guy was like, Apple in a week, and the Pacific one goes away and the bronze one comes out. That's almost exactly what the hash flag color ended up being. Huh. That tweet aged incredibly well. He made that joke before the event was confirmed. Let's see. Any potential new service announcement in this event? Not one I've heard about. There's not been much rumored for upcoming services. When do I think the new Macs will launch? I'm guessing that I think it was Gurman who reported on this, but his logic sounded correct, that Apple doesn't want too many big products all being announced at once, which kind of annoys me because, I would love a big action-packed event that has lots of things to talk about. But I think Apple would rather have major product announcements kind of separate from each other. That way they don't compete for stage time in the media and for public attention. So my guess is September is going to be about iPhones, watches, and perhaps AirPods. And also potentially iPad Mini 6 and the iPad 9, a more affordable iPad that's cheaper. They've been doing that for years. So it's fairly typical to expect a new budget iPad to come out around this time of year. We've gotten one the past 2 Septembers. 2019, we got the iPad 10.2-inch iPad, and then 2020, we got the iPad 8 with the A12 chip. So it makes sense as to this September we might get a couple new iPads. But I think that Apple knows they have a ton of attention and a ton of hype surrounding the M1X chip in the upcoming MacBook Pros, which are supposed to be mini LED, bringing back some legacy ports like SD card slot, HDMI, even MagSafe, which I still don't know how that's supposed to work. But I think they're going to save that for either October or November. Preferably October, because I want it to happen as soon as possible. But Max Howard super chatted and says, maybe it's a reference to the song California Dreaming and Apple is announcing Apple Music 2. I agree with the former. No, actually, it's very likely. Apple Music 2 Electric Boogaloo confirmed. It's almost certainly happening. Will they keep the Watch SE? Any chance there is also SE2 coming? Not much I've read about. They could, I guess, have an ace up their sleeve or a surprise watch that we didn't know about. But as far as I'm aware, I think the SE will stick around and they're not going to do anything with it. I don't know what you need to do with it. I think that the differentiating features between like a Series 6 or even a Series 7 and the SE are fair. It's like, okay, this one has the blood oxygen level sensors, the ECG, and the always on display. Those feel pretty premium. And then the SE is still good. It's still the, somewhat recent design. It won't be as good as the Series 7 design, but it'll be modern and sleek. And it covers the basics. You can still do your activity management. You can still check your heart rate, and it can detect irregular heart rates and that kind of thing. So I think there's still a good amount of distance between those two products. If they upgraded both and there was like a Series 7 and then like a new SE with an updated design, I don't know. It might be too similar. They might be worried about that cannibalizing itself. I don't know. I'm not sure. No new Macs will come out this year. Wow, Lord Hawkage, that sounds depressing. I don't think that's the case. Last I read, the mini LED supply chains for the new MacBook Pros are on schedule. Let's see if I can find that article. Because it's than even new iPhones. Oh, darn. Who reported on it? It's not on Mac Rumors. Was it 9 to 5? This is... Okay, I see the hash flag. I see that Apple lost their Apple Car executive. There's the oh yeah, here it is. It was 95 Mac. MacBook Pro Mini LED suppliers say shipments are on schedule. Yay, Digitimes Asia. So that's more likely. Apple is likely to unveil Mini LED backlit MacBook Pro series in October or November. See, the suppliers don't even know. With total shipments in 2021 estimated at nearly 4 million units. So it's looking okay. I don't see anything super evident that they're going to delay it entirely. I think we're okay. I think we're good. Let's see. Do you think Apple will call the smaller notch on the iPhone Face ID second generation like what they did with Touch ID? Ooh. I guess they could, huh? Maybe if they rearrange it a bit. I'm really curious about that. I would love to see if Apple wants to acknowledge the notch on stage, because for the longest time, Apple has never they've never called it a notch. They call it the True Depth camera system. And it's meant to not be looked at as an intrusion. It's just meant to be looked at as, really, really good biometric that also allows for, great video calls and great selfies. And everyone keeps saying, like, at Apple at least, they're like, true depth camera system's great. There's no flaws. It's perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. So if they now unveil the iPhone 13 and the notch is smaller, do you acknowledge that that is now better? Because that would require you, if you acknowledge it as an improvement, that's insinuating that it was a problem in the first place. So if they're always joking, or if they're always saying that, it's not a problem. No, it's the notch. It's just, it's the true depth camera system. It's just meant to be there. Now they come forward and say, actually, this is far better, right? Like the display is more immersive. So I guess Apple's saying iPhone 12 notch was intrusive. iPhone 11 notch is intrusive. So I wouldn't be shocked if Apple just chooses not to reference it at all and doesn't even acknowledge it. And they just hope that you look at it and mentally are imagining to yourself, oh, this display looks more immersive. Oh, this looks more modern. But they don't ever actually do a side-by-side comparison and say, see, this notch is better than this notch. I don't think they'll do that. I guess they might. If I guess Face ID has improved, if they make it work from more directions or something like that, maybe it would make more sense to call it second generation. But my guess is it won't work any differently. I think in general, the smaller notch will perform exactly the same way as the bigger notch. Apple logo opens a cold night sky with a bunch of cooler colors. Leakers. AR glasses. Me. Apple refrigerator. That's a good one. I think the refrigerator's practically confirmed at this point. Big sarcasm disclosure there. Moran. I didn't mean to say moron. I don't know how to pronounce this. Moran Sorgek says, watching every video for 2 years now. Keep it up. Just wondered why you go for the Pro Max instead of the Pro, since you like the Mini. Greetings from Turkey. Thank you for the donation. Appreciate that. There's several people super chatting decent amounts. Let me just briefly mention that becoming a YouTube member is cheaper. It's $2 a month. You get loyalty badges. You get custom emojis in the chat. You get updates on upcoming videos. You get premium access to the Discord. And you get to, use that for every live stream moving forward instead of highlighting just one message. But anyway, why go for the Pro Max? I'm an exaggerated person. I don't like muted colors. I like saturated colors, and I like going all in on things. So I've tried, last year I tried the 12 Pro. I don't like in-between phones. I either want a really small phone or a really big phone. So they feel like almost completely separate products, both of which I enjoyed quite a bit. The reason I had a hard time choosing the 12 Mini was because I did enjoy the 12 Pro Max quite a bit. It was kind of a tricky dilemma. It was kind of a toss-up for me which one I would prefer. And I decided that because we were likely to get iPhones in September this year, and because I was disappointed by no 120 hertz on the 12 Pro Max last year, I wanted to vote with my dollar and encourage Apple to make more phones like the 12 Mini, because that was like the new kid on the block. That was the new phone that wasn't there before, and I wanted to reward Apple for coming up with that. So I was like, hey, I'm going to buy and keep the 12 Mini. I'm not going to keep the 12 Pro Max because I don't like that they compromised on the refresh rate. And when you're spending, I know most people don't care about refresh rate and average consumers don't notice, but I think that when you're spending $1,100 on a phone, it should have that. So I deemed it as like, yeah, not interested. But basically, I love having a giant display and I love having a compact display. But when you have something in the middle, I feel like many would probably argue you get the best of both. I would argue you get the worst of both. It's like it's not small enough to be compact and comfortable, and it's not big enough to feel like you have tons of screen real estate. It just kind of disgusts me on both ends. So I'm an exaggerated personality, I guess. Thank you, Daniel Holloway, for becoming a member. Appreciate that. He's a long time viewer. I recognize that name. Been waiting for the battery indicator to come back forever. Oh, I wouldn't assume that. Just because the notch is getting smaller, I don't know if that means the battery indicator's coming back. It might, but I wouldn't be shocked if it doesn't. Just because, the battery complication widget on the Apple Watch, they could have easily added to iOS at any time, and they still didn't. So I'm kind of okay with not having all that information up there. Will they use the background used in the photo? Yeah, that doesn't seem like the type of background Apple would use with an iOS attempted thing. It looks more like a Mac OS type of background, which is why I'm kind of wondering, like, this feels like it would be more of a Mac-related announcement, but Brain Freak says, yeah, definitely a weird tagline. California streaming sounds strange. I know what it's a reference to. For those just tuning into the live stream now, I sang California Dreaming, except in streaming at the beginning of the live stream. I know what it's a reference to. It's just a weird reference for Apple to make when most of the time it's like time flies, high speed, or I don't know, gather round, that type of thing. I use the 44mm Apple Watch. And fun fact, this is the 42mm watch band I've been wearing for like almost a year by now. So this watch band I'm using with my Series 6 is the same watch band that came with my original 2015 Apple Watch Sport. I have that exact same watch band, and it still works, despite the millimeter increase, which is why I personally believe the old watch bands will still work with the Series 7. Obviously, there will be new watch bands that fit it slightly better, but it will still technically work. It's just not going to be endorsed by Apple. They're going to be like, no, you need to buy new watch bands, but if you try it, I bet it'll still work. So I have not even noticed. I had to take these off and check, and I realized, wait, I never bought a black sport band. When I got my Series 4, I got the white sport band, and when I got the Series 6, I got the red. What did it come with? I think it came with a red Velcro sport loop or something like that. Drew's thinking is exactly the opposite as mine. I think the Pro Max is too big and the Mini is too small. I expect most people to think that way. I know I'm not the majority. I'm a weird person. I'm very different. I'm not the average consumer. I obviously agree that for the average folk, for the vast majority of people, 6.1 inches is fine. Lots of people are comfortable with that size. I'm not myself. I'm weird. Let's see. So what would you think if there was a version of the Mini like the Asus Zenfone 8, 5.9 inch display, like 6. What? Jimmy Fire Dragon, what the heck are you asking? 5.9? Well, 5.4 is smaller, and it's an iPhone, so I don't want no Asus Zenfone. Do you know who I am? Do you see my background? If there was a version of the Mini, I don't know what you mean. Brain Freak, thank you for becoming a member. Appreciate that. They will change the way the loop connects to the watch, making you buy new bands. Well, that's been a concern / worry that the tech community has had ever since the very first Apple Watch. I remember when they unveiled it in 2014 and started shipping it in 2015, people were like, all these watch bands aren't going to work on the next generation. You're going to have to buy. So far, that hasn't happened. I mean, there's been slight changes where newer watch bands fit better than old ones, but for the most part, the very first watch band that came out in 2015, all of those watch bands still work with all of the new watches. They're just not perfectly flush, but you can still wear them. Stefan says, I love the size of my 11 Pro. It's the perfect size, in my opinion. Yeah, I think a lot of people like that size. I used it for a while when I had the iPhone 10. That was 5.8 inches. I was fine with that. Kind of the same way. I was really tempted by the Mini, but it's a little impractical for me. I have giant hands, but I liked how just so light and one-handable it is. Yeah, I'm the same way. I think I'm going to get worried that when the 13 Pro Max comes out, it's going to be too heavy and it's going to feel weird in my hand because I've gotten so used to the 12 Mini being so light and so easy to hold, and I do use it one-handed quite a bit, so I hope that I can get used to the 13 Pro Max pretty quickly, but I've been spoiled likely. Could you do a poll on... Is Jivan always the person who asks me to do the polls? I can't remember if that was the same person as last time. Could you do a poll on people who are going to upgrade this year to the latest iPhone? I think we did that a previous time. I'll make it more interesting. I'll say, like, which iPhone you upgrading to, or at all. And I'm going to put 13 Pro / Pro Max in one vote, and then 13 / 13 Mini in another. And then the last option will be not upgrading. And see how that does. That way we get a bit more diversity in our YouTube polls. The chat seems to love the polls whenever I post them. They're like, yeah, we got a poll. Daniel says, always having the biggest screen phone. I would even want a 7-inch screen size. I probably could get used to it. Yeah, my pockets are not like, girls' pockets that can barely fit, a paper clip because they're so small. I have pretty decent sized cargo shorts with decent pockets. So if they made a 7-inch iPhone, needless to say, I would be tempted. But at that size, you might have to adjust iOS a tad bit to make it more practical. The Apple logo is a bit Tron-ish, so it seems like a complication. That could be it. I'm kind of curious to see if they make the always-on display, like, not just on and off pixels, but kind of vibrant, like you said, like the Tron effect, that kind of blue, glowy look to them. Let's see. It's not official that I'm upgrading. I'm thinking about it, though. I need that matte black. If it looks as good as I think it will, yeah, matte black would be wonderful. Apple, hopefully, has been watching MKBHD's videos, and they know how many sales they'll get. Let's see. I feel like the 12 Pro Max is way too big. It looks like an iPad mini. Yeah, if you have an iPad mini, maybe the 12 Pro Max is a bit redundant. I wish there was a way we could use the iPad mini 6 as an iPhone. The biggest issues for me are I can't connect my Apple Watch to my mini 6 and the camera, I suppose. Those are probably my biggest issues. So if they could fix those two things, give the iPad mini 6 a better camera. Also, I really care about 120 hertz and Face ID, but I would love to try to get, the iPad mini as my only phone, but it can't really do that. We're on Sorgek. Thank you for becoming a member. Appreciate that. How does Louise feel about big phones? Doesn't she have the SE2? She doesn't really care. I can tell you. I don't know how many different ways to tell you. She does not care about her phone at all. She used an 8 Plus for a long time. She used a 10R for a while. And then she went from the iPhone 10R to the iPhone 6 because she would rather sell the 10R when the resale value of it was good and just pocket that cash and use an old crappy iPhone. She used the iPhone 6 until we got the SE as a gift. And she was like, oh, well, if it's free, I'll use that. But honestly, she was probably tempted to just sell the SE, but because it was a gift, she probably didn't feel like selling it. Peterman Valley, good day, Drew. Absolutely love when you go live. Expect lots of live streams in the next 2 weeks, okay? We're going to have the hype stream leading up to iPhone 13 event, and then we're going to have the pre-order stream early, a week from this Friday. I'll probably go live at like 4:30 in the morning, and I'm going to pre-order the new iPhone, the new Apple Watch, new AirPod. I'm going to pre-order all the new stuff alongside you guys so we can pre-order it together. And then maybe live stream some of the unboxing experience a week after that. So, of course, there will be Q&A streams and speculation streams all in between that. So, yeah, definitely expect a lot of live streams in the next couple weeks, that's for sure. Andrew Illingworth super chatted says, any thoughts on why we haven't gotten the second iPhone SE? What do you mean the third? Because technically we got an iPhone SE in 2016, second gen in 2020. There's rumored to be a third one next year. Not that I'm in favor of this. I know it throws off everyone's plan because everyone's like, iPhone SE only happens every 4 years. There wouldn't be one next year. Well, I'm just telling you what the supply chains are saying. And allegedly, there will be a new SE next year, probably around March or April, that looks identical. No changes. No new camera, no new home button, no Face ID, no nothing. It'll look exactly like the current SE, except it will have 5G. And maybe a A15 chip, maybe a updated silicon. But other than that, it's exactly the same. Just so that Apple can say, here's our cheapest 5G phone. And I don't care much about that. I feel like that, especially with the battery capacity in the SE being so crappy, you should not be throwing 5G modems on there. But for marketing purposes, it probably makes a ton of sense. They already got the Qualcomm modems coming in, and if they can stuff one in a small iPhone like that, that's probably what it'll be. But both iPhone SEs came out in the spring, so definitely don't expect one around now. Rich Hardesty, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Appreciate that greatly. There's actually exclusive alternate universe video that dropped for members only today. It's very similar to the video that dropped today, but slightly different. But yeah, basically I keep the members updated with what videos I'm working on and what videos will drop. And I'll oftentimes ask you guys questions or ask for your advice on what you want talked about in upcoming streams and videos. And obviously, It's only $2 a month, and it helps me out a lot, so I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Andy134, 1,000 super chatted. Wow, $10. My goodness, that's like 5 months of being a YouTube member. I can't decide on color. Went silver with 12 Pro, and I'm enticed by a matte black option if the orange color doesn't happen. Hopefully it will. Don't care for rose gold. What color are you going for? I can't decide either. I'm in the same boat as you. I think I would be interested to see what the orange color looks like in person. I've been betrayed before. I've seen colors that look a certain way on Apple's website, and then I look at them in person, and they look totally different. So that's thrown me off in the past, but I'm not swearing off the possibility of getting the orange goldish color because that sounds kind of cool and exciting. But I'm debating if I should just leave it up to a poll. I think that it might be kind of fun. I'm not interested in rose gold, so I might swear rose gold off. But I'm kind of fine with the graphite gray. I'm kind of fine with silver. I'm kind of fine with anything. So I think it might be fun to leave it up to you guys. And before the pre-order stream begins, I'm going to set a poll in the chat, and whatever the top result is, I'll pre-order that color. That might be dangerous because I'm supposed to favorite the iPhone I want before I order it, but I'm debating just letting the audience decide. I think that might be more fun. So if you guys don't wake up super early to vote in that poll, you won't get your voice heard. I don't know if matte black is for sure happening, but if it does, that would definitely be at the top of my list. If it looks cool enough and it's exciting enough, then screw you guys. I'm not going to listen to the poll. The polls will almost always choose the new flagship color. That's true. They did it last year. Everyone chose Pacific Blue. I think I've done polls in the past where I've been like, what color do you think I should get? And then it comes time for me to pre-order, and I was like, I didn't say I would get that option. I was just curious what you guys wanted me to get. It's kind of cruel, but just realized that there are special videos for members. Thank you. You're welcome. I said they don't make a gold iPhone that's not cheaper than $1,000. Well, it's gold, dude. That's the luxury status. It's the luxury symbol. How early is the stream? It should be 4:30 a.m. Pacific time, so 30 minutes before the pre-orders go up. I love the monochrome minimal modern aesthetic, so silver/white is my jam, but I like to get the exclusive flagship color of the new iPhone, whichever they choose. The difference here is the iPhone I'm getting this year is likely to be my last iPhone for a while. 120 hertz was like my last big major feature that I really cared about. Everything after that feels very incremental and unnecessary for my use cases. Like, I wouldn't upgrade for a periscope lens. I wouldn't upgrade for a camera hole, punch hole cutout. I wouldn't upgrade for 240 hertz. I don't really notice a difference after 120. Thank you, Andy1341000, for becoming a member. Appreciate that very much. Thank you. It's only $2 a month. Yeah, it's not much. Kind of want that sunset goldish color or matte black. Yeah, I would be hesitant though, just because the sunset color might look very different on the website than it does in person. That could end up being a huge disappointment. Black iPhone 5 equals perfection. That one was a kind of like bluish black. I think people called it slate. My first iPhone was iPhone 7 Plus in gold, and that thing was only $749. Yeah, but it didn't do as much as these new iPhones, that's for sure. Is 120 hertz pretty much guaranteed at this point? I'm hesitant to say it's guaranteed. I'll just say highly likely. It's very likely at this point based on like literally every single analyst and every single leaker saying it'll be 120 hertz this year, and it was supposed to be last year, but they just couldn't get the supply chains in check yet. So it's tough. How much will 120 hertz hit the 13 Pro Max? I'm hoping that the battery life will be better than the 10s Max. 10s Max battery life isn't up to par for its size. Yeah, 10s Max was not very good just relative to 11 Pro Max, which had still, I think to this day, the best battery life of any iPhone. It had the physically largest battery capacity of any iPhone. The 12 Pro Max has a smaller battery capacity. They were hoping, I think, the A14 chip would compensate for that, and that's why when you go on the website, it says 11 Pro Max, 12 Pro Max, oh yeah, same battery life. But in the real life tests, when I reviewed the 12 Pro Max, it was definitely not the same. I noticed the standby time being much worse than the 11 Pro Max. But Of course, 120 hertz shouldn't hurt it too bad because it's LTPO, which means that it's not locked at 120 hertz at all times. Obviously, if you're playing a game or doing something that requires constant 120 hertz refresh rate, that's going to chew through the battery. But it's rumored to be a physically larger battery capacity on the 13 Pro Max than even the 11 Pro Max, which means theoretically biggest battery life of any iPhone ever. And keep in mind that if you're worried about 120 hertz hurting your battery life, you can turn it off. At least with the iPad Pros, they let you turn off 120 hertz if you don't want to use them. So I think you'll be fine. If you want to prioritize battery life, you can turn it off. It's the same kind of thing with the Apple Watch always on display. A lot of people were like, the battery life didn't get improved. I was like, well, if you just turn off the always on display, it can easily last you 2 days. At least it does for me. Charles Patterson, thank you for supporting. Appreciate that very much. I'm going to use this money to eat later. It's important. Do you know the average age of your audience? I think there's a place in YouTube Studio that lets me check that. But people lie about their age on the internet all the time, so I don't know how easily I should trust that. Let me see. If I go to the audience tab, let me find it. 41% United States. Oh, okay. I think this is it here. I guess I can show you, huh? 93.6% male. Shout out to our 6.4% of female viewers. I'm actually kind of surprised by this. 35%, 25 to 34. That's the biggest demographic. Second, at 29%, is 18 to 24, and people below the age of 18 is only 3%. Actually, third place is 35 to 44. We got some older people watching. I didn't really think about that. We actually have a higher demographic. Can it show this? Yeah, here we go. We have a higher demographic of 55 to 64-year-olds than we do 13 to 17-year-olds. Isn't that interesting? We got some... That means the majority of people watching my videos are older than I am. That's kind of blowing my mind right now. Whoa. Let's see. If the 13 has an always on display, will you leave it on? I'm willing to give it a shot, similar to the Series 6 and Series 5. Like, I tried the always on display for a while, but sometimes it bugs me, especially in dark scenarios where the phone is emitting, where the watch is emitting light and I don't want it to, so I got to turn on theater mode. Also, it eats through battery faster, so I'll give it a shot, but it's highly likely I'll end up turning it off. Brain, I'm trying to keep this family friendly, but you keep super chatting. Curse your generosity. Oh my god. Thank you for the super chat. How safe is this always on display feature coming? What do you think? How safe is it? I think it's perfectly safe. I mean, Apple is by far not the first phone to a company to come up with an always on display on a smartphone. It might chew through your battery a little bit more, but like, how safe is it in assuming it's going to have it? I could still see it ending up not having it. I don't know. I mean, Apple probably knows that 120 hertz is not going to be a great selling point for average consumers. Everyday people aren't going to know what that means or notice the difference anyway. But always on display, that's probably a decent headlining feature because that's something that everyday people go, oh, I get it. The display doesn't turn off. So it just makes a tad more sense. It makes a tad more sense for them to advertise that, even if you don't really plan on using it very much. So I would say it's fairly likely at this point. I'll put it at 60-70% chance of there being always on. It's probably like 30% 13 to 17, but they all lie about their age. It's true. There could be a lot of lying going on about their ages, but the thing is, we'll never know what that data is. We can't figure out data based on people lying, but we can have data based on people being honest, and that's what the data is. Wow. Michael Ciabarassi? I'll just say Michael. I don't know how to pronounce that last one. What do you think about Pages versus Microsoft Word? I guess my biggest... The thing is, for me at least, I don't write a lot of documents anyway. One of those is free, and one of them is not free. One of them you hopefully get included because you're a student or you have to pay for it through Office 365 or whatever. they practically do the same thing. I've used both extensively, and I don't really care about this. Well, I need Microsoft Office because it has this slightly different spacing option than, or the cursor has this animation between the characters as you type. I'm like, you open the page, you type. Who cares? Like, why is it a big, like, I don't know what the big difference between those two are. Like, I also don't see the big point in debating Spotify versus Apple Music. I mean, get whichever one is cheaper for you. There are certain people in certain countries that can get Spotify for, like, way cheaper than Apple Music. Yeah, basically, you open the app, you ask it to play the song you want, and it probably has it. It's that simple. Like, for some people, you can get Apple Music as a student way cheaper than you can get Spotify, or Apple Music is included in your Apple One subscription. Whatever, just use whatever is cheapest for you. I don't see why it needs to be a big difference. Same thing with Pages versus Word. I'll take Pages because it's cheaper. I'm sure Microsoft Word might have a handful of advantages, but I don't really care what those are. Word is way slower than Pages, actually. Really? I didn't know that. Okay, maybe Microsoft Word sucks donkey face. I don't know. Quote that. My cursor turns around to look backwards whenever it's over Microsoft Word, and therefore I hate it. Justin Beck says Microsoft Word is objectively better, but I don't write enough to spend money. Okay, we've got a disagreement. We might have to change the poll. What do we prefer? Yeah, we've only got 484 votes on which iPhone are people upgrading to. 42% said not upgrading, and 51% said 13 Pro or Pro Max. Yeah, that makes sense. Word has more features, though. If you are not writing something scientific, you do not need it. People just got to tell me what those features are. It's not helpful to me for people to say, it's better. It has more of this. Say what exactly it doesn't do. I have both Spotify and Apple Music at the moment, but the lack of podcasts gives Spotify the W. Really? I get kind of annoyed that there's a podcast section in Spotify. I would kind of rather that be a separate app, to be honest, but I get why they do it. Do you think Apple should release a new 5C-ish iPhone, meaning with a plastic body, making the iPhone lighter? If the specs are fine, I'd probably get it, even if that means no wireless charging. The wireless charging does not take a lot in manufacturing. I mean, if they can do it in the SE, they're not going to make something even cheaper. The 5C did not sell very well. That's another painful reminder. I'll say again for the people in the back. It sounded good in concept that you would make a cheaper iPhone for people who couldn't afford the 5S, but the 5S outsold the 5C like 3-1. So most people would rather get the nicer phone anyway. So Apple didn't have much success taking iPhones the plastic route. And the closest thing you're getting to the 5C is probably just the regular 12 and 12 mini. That's the colorful, cheaper option. Apple's found a sweet spot with that market being somewhat premium, but still having flagship features, but not all the flagship features. It's under $1,000, so it's more obtainable and approachable, I guess. So I don't think so. I don't think there's a point in making a plastic one. If they can make the SE for $400 and that's made of glass and metal, they're probably not going to see much more success if they made an iPhone even cheaper than the SE. I mean, I'd entertain the idea. It sounds kind of interesting, maybe for India, because India is a very large demographic of people, but iPhone makes up for a very, very small percentage of sales there because the general population has far less money to spend. So it would be, I don't think necessarily they would have a ton of success with it, but if Apple made like a 13C with no wireless charging, no glass back, and no metal, and it was just a plastic phone for like $200, that would probably be the best-selling phone in India, the best-selling iPhone in India, not the best-selling phone in India, because probably the best-selling phones in India are like $100 or less. So if they wanted to break into that market and make it a substantial segment, that's probably the best shot, is just like the absolute cheapest iPhone you can imagine. Probably take out Touch ID, and it just runs iOS, and that's pretty much the only thing about it that is iPhone-like. Maybe Touch ID is not expensive. They put Touch ID in the power button. That's just an iPod with cellular. Yeah, that's, well, even the iPod is metal though. But I'm just saying, even an iPod with a cell plan, an iPod Touch with a cell plan would probably be the best-selling iPhone in India. Main features, to my knowledge, citation management. Interesting. I know nothing about that. Martingale says Word does tend to have better formatting of organizing paragraphs across multiple pages compared to Google Docs and Pages in my experience, although I still prefer money. That's a good explanation. You know what Word has is a citation management organizing paragraphs across multiple pages. But what Google Docs and Apple Pages has, literally money. Let's pretend that Microsoft Office is free and using Google Docs pays you $10 a month. Which one are you going to use? So basically, the people who need to use Microsoft Office are the people that aren't debating the two. If you can't decide which one is better for your use case, then it's probably the cheaper one. And if you do need the features Office offers, then it's not a debate for you. There's no question. Will the event reaction stream be on YouTube? Yes. I'm no longer on Twitch. Everything's on YouTube. The hype stream, the reaction stream, it's all one thing now. We're not going to do the, okay, guys, we're starting the reaction stream now. It's all going to be here. It's going to be one continuous live stream that I hope I don't get copyright striked for. Let's see. Word has a more straightforward UI. It's easier to format documents and more compatible across platforms. Well, that matters if you're not within the ecosystem. If you're an iPhone and iPad and Mac user, that's going to be more streamlined and simplified, in my opinion. Word is free online version, but desktop version better. Oh, that's good. Would you upgrade for Face ID / Touch ID dual biometric authentication? No. I don't care about Touch ID very much personally. I think that's still a good feature. I think that I've met a ton of people, anecdotally in my personal life that would definitely upgrade for Touch ID because they don't like Face ID as much, either because they wear sunglasses that don't support Face ID or the face mask thing and they don't have an Apple Watch. Ever since they've unveiled that you can unlock your iPhone with a mask on as long as you have an Apple Watch, I don't care about Touch ID. Like, they could add that to the iPhone 14, would not care. Under the display or in the power button, Face ID is still the best for me. I prefer Face ID overall. I wouldn't upgrade for a smaller notch. I want USB-C, but I wouldn't upgrade for that because I still pretty much exclusively charge with MagSafe. So it'd be nice. I still think it's the right call for Apple to add USB-C, but I wouldn't upgrade just for that. I wouldn't upgrade just for portless. That's not really a big deal for me. Like, okay, there's no Lightning port now. Maybe the battery life's slightly better, but my goal is to hold on to this next 13 Pro Max iPhone for many, many years. I want to see basically how long I can hold on to it. All right, Brain Super Ted says, I think you should make a video about Word versus Pages on Mac, but I think it's not your expertise. Well, I think you answered your own question right there. I don't think it would be very interesting because I would be like, I don't use any of the features that Microsoft Office has over Pages, so it would just result in me saying, yeah, Pages is free and basically does the same thing. If I don't think if I reviewed both, I would come to any type of conclusion. I'm kind of like anti-services anyway, so I don't think it would be a very interesting video. I think the Apple sheep is more likely to use the Apple service. We just canceled our Dish TV service that we had for as long as I've been alive. It feels good to put our DVR in a box. Man, I'm surprised you guys are still paying for that. I guess some people still want the news and sports and stuff. Jane Sackman asks, will my wife be upgrading? Nope. She still loves, well, she doesn't love, but she uses her SE. She doesn't, I don't know how many different ways I can say this. She does not care. She would have, my wife would be using an iPhone 6 today if we did not receive the iPhone SE as a gift. She did not choose the SE. She did not buy that SE. She was literally given one for free, and she was like, okay, fine, I'll use this, I guess. But she was on the fence about selling it and just keeping her iPhone 6, which was not running the latest iOS at all. The battery life was terrible. It had, I think, a third-party screen replacement that did not do a good job. You could see the little screen brightness blotchiness on the front. It was not looking good. It was not doing well, and she kept using it. Basically, my wife is in the camp of, I will use the phone until it will not work at all. Doesn't really matter how bad the battery is. I don't know if I've ever been in a situation where my wife was like, I want to buy that new iPhone. Pretty much before we were married, before we were dating, she bought a used iPhone 4, and this was like in 2015. The 4 was not new. She bought one off her friend for like $50 or $100, and then used that until I was buying new iPhones, obviously, for the channel, and I just gave her my old ones. I was like, okay, you can use the 8 Plus now, I think is what she switched to. And she was like, okay, I guess I'll use the 8 Plus for a while. And then I got the 10R and the 10S Max. And I was like, okay, now you can use the 10R. And she was like, okay, cool. So there's not been any situation, I think, in her entire life where she's been like, you know what? I want a new iPhone. She's always just been like, I will use what's available. And I'm pretty sure she's going to keep being that way for a long time. Wow, Jane Sackman just donated $20 and didn't even say anything. Jeez, thank you for the support. People are being overly generous today. What the heck? I'm grateful, but like, guys, what's going on? Peterman Valley says the face mask feature for Face ID has worked incredibly, though recently it stopped working, probably an iOS 15 bug. I did read about that. There was a bug in one of the developer betas for iOS 15 where the feature didn't work, though they've updated it. Now it's working again. Stefan says, would Louise upgrade to the new SC with 5G for the speed increase, even though she wouldn't notice? Yeah, definitely not. No, not even close. I think you would have to pay her to upgrade her phone. I don't even know. Like, she doesn't want to deal with... It's a shame she's working right now. She's unfortunately working overtime today, or she might be working overtime. I don't know. I would love for her to come in and answer your guys' questions. I think that would be fun. But she's you know, taking calls and support chats right now, so she can't. Would Louise get your 12 mini when you upgrade? I asked her about this. I kid you not. I'm not making this up. I was like, so, hun, I'm getting the 13 Pro Max. Would you want the 12 mini? And she said, I will take the opposite of whichever phone we can sell for more. So she was like, I'll keep my SE if you think you can sell your 12 mini for more. And I was like, well, yeah, it's the 12 mini. It was like $800 new. I'm sure we could sell that one for more than we could sell your SE for. She was like, okay, then I'm keeping the SE. So basically, if there was some crazy scenario, which this would never happen, but if someone was willing to buy her iPhone SE for more than what someone would be willing to buy my 12 mini for, then she would switch to the 12 mini. Basically, finance and the cash is her go-to. Is just like, which one is the cheapest one? So basically, because my 12 mini will sell for more, she wants me to sell the 12 mini, and she'll keep her SE. So yeah, she does not care about 5G whatsoever. I don't care about 5G either. Peterman Valley says, that's surprising. My grandma's like that, but I fully expect it. This constantly evolving tech-dependent world is not her thing, but for a younger person, I'd imagine would be more intrigued. Not even all younger people. I think that it's, you know, as I showed with my channel analytics earlier, this tech community is almost 94% male. I mean, I've heard that in general, YouTube as a whole is more male-dominated than female, but still... Wow, I didn't realize 40% of my watch time is from people that aren't subscribed. That's interesting. 7.5% from United Kingdom, 5% from India, 4.9% from Canada, 3.3% Australia. Wow, my wife's half Australian, so we got a little piece there. It's just kind of interesting. But yeah, there's a lot of young people that literally do not care at all. Oh, man, you're going to make me say your name. Michael Schiabarasi. Hopefully I got that right. Just became a YouTube member. Thank you very much for you guys' support today. This is really nice. Brain is heading out. Thank you for tuning in. Will is awesome. Says, I plan on upgrading to the 13 Pro Max from the 8, so that would be a decent upgrade. Yeah, I would say so. Man, from the 8? From 2017? Yeah. No, I definitely think so. Jane Sackman says, I love your streaming and videos. Thanks. You're welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Scroll down. Let's see. Hard disagree on 5G, especially as Verizon spreads millimeter wave. That's a nice thing to have for work. I don't know who at work needs their phone to go gigabit speeds. That's a very specific use case. I don't think my wife would definitely care about that, especially in the age of the pandemic and more people working from home now. You know, before the quarantine and before the pandemic and everything, my wife had to drive to an office, but then pandemic, they let her work from home and she can still work from home now. Everyone's on Wi-Fi now. So millimeter wave is interrupted literally by like a wall. So you'd have to be like outside in very close line of sight of millimeter wave. Plus, I hate Verizon. Their billing management sucks. Their marketing team is bloated. Their brick and mortar stores are unnecessary. So you can get millimeter wave, but you're going to be spending like several $100s a month. I don't know why people... The carrier situation in the U.S. is already so crap as it is. I don't know why people would choose the most expensive, other than coverage being, if that's your only option. Gigabit speed is good when you're at work and want to stream a movie. You don't need gigabit speed to stream a movie. You need like 10 megabits down to play 4K streaming. California streaming. Problem is Wi-Fi isn't great for coverage either. Yeah, but it's typically a lot cheaper. Do you think Apple would ever let other companies sell their own phone cases on Apple's site besides the third-party companies on there now? That's a weird question. What? They already sell third parties there. I think you just have to pay a fee, I'm imagining. To get your third-party accessory on Apple's website, they're probably going to take a cut. So if they let other third parties there, I mean, they already do. So let's see. Millimeter wave can be blocked by a leaf. Yeah, I don't think... I can't find the use case where someone actually benefits from having gigabit on their phone. It's not for watching Netflix. Watching YouTube can be done with very crappy LTE. You can stream 1080p YouTube videos on 6 megabits. Yeah, 5G is not allowing for that. Jim Jam John says, I never use data, so I pay £5 for unlimited calls and texts on Smarty in the UK. They're very good value. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, I use some data, but Mint Mobile is just like astronomically cheaper. Not a sponsor, but I'm just telling you what I use. Especially with their referral program, I recommended a bunch of people with that, so I don't have a phone bill for like years. I don't have to pay anything for cell phone service thanks to their referral program. I hope they don't get rid of that, but you can use it as a hotspot. I haven't seen that. That's a very different market. Getting gigabit to the phone is one thing. I haven't seen that many people able to showcase millimeter wave 5G that they can hotspot off their phone and then get. That's a different market called 5G home internet, which I would agree has a better use case, but that's not for phones. Millimeter wave is for capacity, so places like concerts, festivals, stations, and city plazas. Yeah, concerts and festivals, which we don't have as much of anymore. Also, I don't do that. Do you need to have gigabit speeds when you're at a concert? Gabriel Grasifa says, I have an iPhone 8. Should I wait for the new iPhones to drop to get the most value out of trading in my 8, or should I take advantage of trade-in deals for the iPhone 12 right now? I think it's safer to wait because even if you don't want to get the 13, the 12 will likely be cheaper or on sale somewhere or through Apple Certified Refurbished. We got a lot of people watching today, so I'm going to repeat it for those in the back, but Apple Certified Refurbished is practically new. Especially with iPhones, they will give you a brand new shell, so there will be new steel, new glass, a new battery, so you're not getting a used battery. It's basically new. The only difference is that the package looks slightly different, and you can save like hundreds of dollars just by going through Apple Certified Refurbished. So you can trade in your iPhone to go towards that. It's absolutely worth it. I've done it myself, and I've heard great things about it in the past. So I would highly, highly recommend you wait. Now is just no one should be buying watches or iPhones right now. It's a terrible time. Let's see. Can't wait to upgrade to a battery life that lasts more than a couple hours. Yeah, this one might last several hours. Big deal. Are you going to be showing the Apple event when you react to it? Yes. I'm gonna try. I don't know if I'm gonna get away with it, but I'm feeling dangerous, so I'm gonna attempt to show it. I'll probably mute it when it plays music, because I'm pretty sure the biggest issue I've had with showing Apple events in the past is just copyrighted music that Apple puts in the events getting claimed. So I'm gonna have a trigger, finger trigger over the mute button. So if they start playing music, I will shut it off. But when they're talking and when they're announcing things, I'll unmute it, and I'll see if I can get away with that. If it doesn't work, then I'll give up and not do it again. But if it does work, I might keep going. Just use Ethernet with your phone. You know, iPhones support that. A lot of people don't know that. If you get an Ethernet to Lightning adapter, your iPads and iPhones can actually get internet over the Ethernet connector. Paul Romero says, I love Verizon. I've been with them for 23 years. 23 years? Jeez, that's all. So you joined Verizon when I was born. That kind of blows my mind. I can actually call a corporate store and talk to someone over the past year you haven't been able to in Southern California. Yeah, that's messed up. I don't want to talk to someone. I just want the service to work. Verizon has all these additional fees. I would highly encourage you to check out how much money you could save by switching to literally anybody except Verizon. There's so much cheaper plans elsewhere. Vin super chatted and says 5G is slightly overrated, but in my area, I find it definitely faster than 4G LTE. Well, that's what it was intended for. My bigger complaint is just that it was advertised to be like 10 times faster than 4G. And the truth, like in 2017, when companies were talking about 5G, they were like, 5G will allow for us to get 1 gigabit or 2 gigabit download. And now 2021 advertising of 5G is like, oh, you know, it's like 20% faster than 4G. It's like, this is not what people were making it out to be. Okay, you found a new version of cellular that is slightly faster than 4G. Big whoop. I don't think that deserved the marketing attention that it got. We could have just gotten faster 4G. The antennas and the modems in our non-5G iPhones were technically capable of going well over gigabit. South Korea LTE was able to get like 2 or 3 gigabit over 4G. Super chat from Herman Hernandez says, I can vouch for Apple certified refurbished. Bought the 2020 iPad Pro just a few weeks ago, and it is literally like new. Wonderful, Herman. Thank you so much. Appreciate the super chat, and I'm super grateful that people are having success with that. I feel like it's the easiest way. You still get your full Apple warranty when you buy certified refurbished. You practically get a brand new product, and you save a ton of money that way. What if you get 3 channel strikes from streaming the event? From one live stream, I could only get 1. So I don't, in order to get multiple, I don't believe they can issue more than 1 strike. Plus, I'm not showing more than 1 piece of content. So the maximum worst case scenario from showing the event is 1 copyright strike, which I've shown Apple events in the past on my channel, and I've never gotten a copyright strike. I've had copyright takedowns, but that doesn't penalize your channel. So if I get 1, I'll quit there. But if I don't, then cool. Let's see. 5G is slightly faster, but my 12 Pro Max gets screaming hot if I use it for very long, especially if I'm using my hotspot to run my iPad. Thank you, Blake. I've had the exact same scenario, and I've heard the exact same thing from countless people. It's very depressing to me that now people defending 5G are using the argument that, look, it's faster. It's like, it was promised to be like 10, 15 times faster, and now it comes out and it's like, sometimes it's less fast. I was seeing speed tests from people on Verizon and people on AT&T and people on T-Mobile that were doing 5G speed tests and getting slower speeds than 4G, and obviously now that's changed because, you know, they've put a lot of work into expanding the network, and now it's like slightly faster, marginally faster. Okay, it's 30 or 40% faster. Crit says, curious whether how old you are, Drew. Whether how old I am? I can tell you whether I'm 23. There you go. More advanced cellular options are essential to power our future society. It might sound overkill now, but there will be more use cases to take advantage of it. I think you could have improved 4G without overhyping 5G like they did. My bigger issue is not with 5G, the technology. It's more so with how 5G was marketed. Like, Apple literally went on stage and said, in ideal conditions, you will get 3 to 4 gigabit download. That literally has never happened. And that was announced like a year ago. And all of the ads that were talking about 5G always brag about how you could get over gigabit, and yet it overheats people's phones. It drains through your battery life really, really fast. And oftentimes it ends up being slower than 4G. So I'm okay with companies developing next generation connectivity and working on improving coverage and that type of thing, but that's not what they were doing with 5G. They were just trying to come up with some powerful hype word to get everybody over static. And I think that it would debatably result in a worse experience. That's why I considered it a borderline scam. Like, I was living in a place that I know for a fact, I don't live in a populated city. I don't live in a major, populated area. And yet the Verizon store in my area was telling people 5G is here, switch to the 5G phone, buy the new this, buy the 5G plan and all that. And I know for a fact there wasn't any here. And they were telling people like, oh, is your phone getting slow? You should switch to this new phone because it has 5G and that means it'll be faster. And yet there were definitive objective speed tests showing 5G with slower speeds than 4G. So you're literally telling people to spend money, buy this new phone, get this new plan so that you can take advantage of this new technology that overall results in them having worse performance. Like, that was literally happening to people. And I was like, that's messed up. That shouldn't have been a thing. You can work on your 5G, but don't advertise it like it's ready, and don't boast about it until it's working and it's definitively faster in any case. And then even if it is faster in all circumstances, don't tell people they're going to get gigabit down. That's not going to happen. All of the money they use for 5G should have been put into the 4G network. I never have good cell service. Yeah, most of the time, that was my biggest complaint with it, is like the main reason someone with a non-5G phone is getting slow data, it's typically because they're in a place without good coverage. It's not because the 4G bandwidth had been used up. That's not the problem. The problem is they're too far away from a 4G tower. So acting like 5G somehow is going to fix that, I don't think the reason people were getting slow data speeds on their phone was because 4G's maximum capacity wasn't high enough. And I don't know. There's just way too much hype around it. Let's see. I still use Cellular on my Apple Watch, mostly for safety due to my job and how much I'm alone. Yeah, it does cost extra, but I guess for safety reasons, it's kind of helpful. Yeah, coverage is definitely a most important issue. What was the first Apple device with OLED? Yeah, it was the Apple Watch. Let's see. Which phone is going to replace the 11-inch? Oh, the 11 in the 600 price point. 12 mini or 12 or a new phone? Ooh. I could be wrong, but I think that because the 13 is going to be very similar to the 12, I'm not talking about the Pros, I'm just talking about the regular models. I think that they're going to get rid of every 12. I don't think there will be a 12 or a 12 mini left after the iPhone 13 launches. I could be wrong. I might end up being incorrect here, and they might keep around the 12 mini or the 12 for some reason. I just think that design-wise and feature-wise, it's going to be way too similar. It's going to be like, hey, these cameras are diagonal, these cameras are up and down. Other than that, they're practically the same. I think that the iPhone 11, there's actually a chance, I don't know if I brought this up in a video, but I think it might make sense for them to keep the iPhone 11 at $600, and it just doesn't see a price drop. So you get all the new iPhone 13s, and they're available, and you can buy them, and they're the same prices as the 12s, but the 11 is still there. It's still $600. Maybe they drop the 10R. Maybe they drop the 11 to $550, do something weird in between. It would definitely feel weird if they drop the 10R and then the 11 is $500, but then there's nothing in between $500 and where the 13 sits, which is going to be like $700, $730. I personally can't see them axing the iPhone 12. It's selling too well. I wonder how it's selling now, right before the new iPhones come out. But Apple has been known to axe their best-selling products. That's been done. If they have something better to replace it with. If you come out with the 13 and it's the same price as the 12, but it's got a better battery life, better cameras, better chip and all that, I think that a ton of people will opt for that. I totally agree with you, but marketing is marketing. Now, to be fair, I know it's different, but home 5G Wi-Fi is a major step up from 4G. I don't think marketing is an excuse. I think there is good marketing and there is bad marketing. Have you guys seen Ryan Reynolds? That is good marketing. You can make honest and genuine commercials that are creative and funny. I don't think all commercials have to be bad. You know, I wish Ryan Reynolds could direct and control every single commercial that was ever made. Otherwise, no one would pay for YouTube Premium and no one would mind ads if Ryan Reynolds was in control of the commercial marketing space. But I can complain about bad marketing or misleading marketing. I think it's totally fair to complain about that. Another big complaint I've had with the fast food industry for years, I don't get to talk about it on the tech channel much, but I'm always annoyed that like Taco Bell and McDonald's always showcase their food. For one thing, the food always looks way better than it really does. That's a whole other debate. But for one, you get the food there, and they always show the drinks in a glass, in a really premium, nice-looking glass that says Dr. Pepper or you know, Coca-Cola. And I feel like the experience of drinking, you know, your beverage out of a glass is far superior than using the paper wax cup that they always have there. They always show the really high-quality looking glasses in those billboards, and then you get to the restaurant, and they're like, oh, yeah, you got to drink the soda out of this mailbox. It was like plastic, waxy material. It feels like they pulled it off the ground somewhere, and now you got to drink through this, like, crappy straw and all that. I want the glass. I don't care if it's $1 or $2 extra. Give me some of them high-quality glasses. I want to drink with my McDonald's. Man, I haven't been to McDonald's in 4 months, 5 months. I miss McDonald's. I'm trying to eat better. I'm saying marketing is marketing, but bad marketing is bad marketing. Drew, ask for glass. They don't have it. I've tried. Alpha DeWolf says, who's worst at marketing, Samsung or Google? I feel like Google's is more stupid. Samsung's is just more hostile. I mean, sometimes Samsung can be hypocritical, but Google makes a lot of commercials and directly will embarrass themselves in the process. Like, headphone jack, not new. And then the next year, they're like, headphone jack's gone. And then they're like, dual camera, no need. And then the next year, they have a dual camera. It's like, they make a lot of just stupid decisions because they go straight up against what their own selling points are. Like the new Pixel 5a, they're like, yay, it has a headphone jack. And the Pixel 6, the Pixel 5, the Pixel 4, the Pixel 3, and the Pixel 2, none of them have headphone jacks. And yet they're bragging about the Pixel 5a having a jack. It's like, it's just dumb. Samsung's marketing is more hostile. It's more like, we have this and Apple doesn't. Apple sucks. You want this. And I think I'm more inclined to like Samsung's marketing just because Samsung makes really great hardware. I won't fault them for that. I think they have some of the best and most technically impressive hardware teams in the world. I don't have much positive things to say about Samsung's software, which is a bit lackluster for me, but like the folding tech, while I don't think it's the future, is still technically very impressive. It's very innovative. And I just don't think that innovation necessarily means the best product overall. But Samsung has just done amazing things with their phones and you know, accelerating wireless charging and thinner bezels and all that stuff. Like they've done amazing things. So I'm like impressed with Samsung. So when they market it as like, hey, we have this and Apple doesn't, it's like, okay, that's hostile, but it's true. So I would say Google's marketing is worse. Like Google literally at an event said, we know that ultra wide is fun, but telephoto is more important. And then the following year ditched telephoto for ultra wide. It's like, you guys can't even decide what you want anymore. I don't get it. Nige81, thank you for the super chat, says, what do you think about a Starlink capable iPhone once the technology gets there? I'm not entirely sure of how the technology is possible right now. The bandwidth of it, the wavelength that Starlink satellites send to the planet has to be line of sight, as far as I'm aware. I don't think you could connect to one from inside or if you were under a bridge. So basically, you could only use Starlink if your phone was like outside, within line of sight of the sky, assuming you could miniaturize that tech. It would be great for what we've talked about the iPhone 13 having, which is emergency satellite communication with low Earth orbit satellites, which would be great in emergency circumstances, like if you were out stranded in the middle of the ocean, obviously no Wi-Fi, no cellular, and you needed to call someone or text someone, hey, help me, or here's my location. It would be good at that. And perhaps they could eventually get the Starlink network to be capable of doing that. Or if you're like, I've heard of countless stories of people getting lost on hiking trips. If you're way out in the wilderness and you're far away from any cell tower, far away from any Wi-Fi network, and I don't know if any of y'all have seen The Ritual on Netflix, but that wouldn't have happened if their phones communicated with Starlink. Basically, they go out in a big wilderness hike, and then the guy twists his ankle, and he can't move as fast as they want to, and then they get haunted by this the son of Loki, which looks like a big moose. Great horror film if you like scary movies. That was one of my favorite Netflix originals I've ever seen. I want to watch that movie again. It's pretty cool. But basically, the whole movie could be avoided if they had a satellite phone. But satellite phones are not new. Technically, there have been phones out there that communicate with satellites. They just do very basic things. You can make a phone call. You can maybe send an emergency beacon of just like, hey, I need help. It's like Life Alert, except it works anywhere on the planet. It doesn't need a cell tower. Basically, Apple and Qualcomm right now are working on ways at building in sat phone tech into your smartphone so that even if you were in a place without coverage or Wi-Fi, you could send out an emergency signal. But it would not be good for data. I think that's a misconception a lot of people might misunderstand. The communication with low Earth orbit satellite feature would not be able to play YouTube videos. It probably wouldn't even be able to support a phone call, at least in its first few generations. That's still a lot of data, relatively speaking. It would basically be good for text. Emergency texts. You couldn't text a picture, you couldn't text a video, you couldn't text audio, at least very quickly. It would take a long time. But I think Mark Gurman or someone was talking about it recently, saying that it will be restricted to certain regions at first, and it will just do it will like show up in iMessage as a different color. So if you were like sending an emergency text over satellite, I think the person reporting on it said it would be gray, which didn't make sense to me, and I saw a comment on that post that made more sense to me, that it would be red. I feel like gray, you already have that with the person you're texting already has gray message bubbles, and when you talk directly to Apple or something through iMessage, like a business-to-business interchange on iMessage or business-to-consumer interchange on iMessage, it's already gray. So I think it would make more sense that if it's an emergency, it shows up in red through iMessage, and it's like, help me, here's my location, I'm stuck somewhere, I've broken my leg, and I need help, and I don't have much supplies. That's what it would be useful for. Could probably help maybe with the Find My network a little bit. Are the new iPhones going to be more expensive? I always think it's a good idea to assume the prices will be higher than they actually will be. There's been a lot of people in the leak community lately saying, no, they won't. There was a big concern because Digitimes came forward and said that TSMC, which is Apple's primary chip manufacturer for the A15 and, the M1, M1X, all that, they've been raising prices on chip components. So Digitimes was like, expect a price hike. Now there's all these leakers and other people saying, no, there isn't going to be a price hike. I don't think there's anything wrong with assuming there will be, because if you're wrong, then great. Cool. You don't have to spend as much as you thought, or you can use that money towards a higher storage configuration. Oh, sorry, there's a super chat here I missed. Ben Rayner super chat. It says, Ryan Reynolds is the king of ads. He got Rick Moravia? Did you mean Moranis? I don't know what you meant by that. Yeah, Rick Moranis was in the Mint Mobile commercial to come out of retirement last year for that Mint ad, Ryan King of Canada. Yeah. I'm a big fan of the Deadpool films as well, so that's why I'm a Mint Mobile customer. I want to support the Deadpool carrier. Ralph Theodari super chatted, says, when would Apple make Apple Pencils for their Macs, iPhone/iPad Mini? Do you think that Apple would ever do that, aside from the Steve Jobs debate? I think it's important to remember the context of why Steve Jobs was saying that. If you go back and watch the original iPhone unveiling, and also you look at the smartphone market at that time in 2007, there were many smartphones that literally required a stylus. It wouldn't work with your finger. Like, you couldn't interact with the display just with your pointer. You literally had to use the stylus to do anything on the phone. And Steve was saying, no, we don't want to do that. You don't need a stylus. You can just use your finger. So Steve was against that. Obviously, Apple's done a ton of things since Steve Jobs has passed that he was originally against. He didn't really like the big smartphone idea. He didn't like having much diversity with the iPad or iPhone line. He was just like one size fits all, the premium or none at all. Once Tim Cook came around, he got more into, well, for one, biometrics, but also having different sizes. Now there's all these different iPad sizes, different iPhone sizes, and Tim Cook got into the cheaper iPhone and premium iPhone type thing. So it's not to say that just because Steve Jobs was against the stylus, that means Apple will forever be, but I personally just don't think it makes much sense to have a stylus on a display that small. Even a 6.7 inch or 6.9 inch iPhone, I feel like the amount you can write, like when I reviewed the Galaxy Note phones, I was not sold on why phones are beneficial to have a stylus. Like there's some people that enjoy that, some people that appreciate having a stylus they can take notes on and stuff, but I just find I can type much faster on the virtual keyboard, and it's something that you got to put away or lose or build it directly into the phone, which compromises on battery life and the internal components. So it's definitely a market Samsung has found success with the Galaxy Note series, but relatively speaking, the Galaxy Note series sells in tremendously lower volume than the volume of the iPhones. So I don't think Apple sees the point in it. And if you're asking about iPad Mini, the iPad Mini 5 already supports Apple Pencil 1, and it's rumored that the iPad Mini 6 will support the Apple Pencil 2, or at least a version of the Apple Pencil 2. So yeah, they already have stylus support on the Minis. But with iPhones, I just don't think it makes much sense with a display that small. You may disagree, but there's not much sales volume to prove that there's a big market for it. There have been rumors that the Apple Pencil would be supported on the latest iPhone for years, and it's obviously never got into anything. But thank you for all you guys super chatting, though I'll just say one last time, I know you're getting tired of this, but it's cheaper to become a member for $2 a month. You get loyalty badges, you get updates on upcoming videos, and you get premium channels in the Discord, and we unlock more emojis the more members we get. So that's, your name stands out in the live streams a lot easier that way for less. Too many sizes and styles out there right now, in my opinion. Yeah. I mean, on one hand, it's kind of distorted and cluttered, but on the other hand, there's an option for everyone. There's probably a demographic for each and every iPad and iPhone size. Peterman Valley says Free Guy was a terrific movie. God knows I love Chris Evans way too much. Was Chris Evans in Free Guy? I haven't seen it, but I've heard it was good. Alpha says I got to play with the M1 iPad Pro 12.9 inch today. I want one for Christmas. Well, look for a good sale. There'll probably be some by then. How the Apple Pencil will fit along the side of the iPad Mini 6. Right now, the Apple Pencil is too long for the Mini. Yeah, I'm confused how they're going to make that work as well. I'm wondering if they'll just make a golf Apple Pencil too, basically, just a shorter one that maybe is a tad cheaper. That would be a good idea too. You could maybe get it with the iPad Air as well. At least Google isn't always trying to insult the other company's users. Yeah, they do it sometimes. You could argue that the Google ad about the headphone jack was trying to insult others, but they're part of that group as well. Let's see. Stefan says, I'm a 16-year-old who took a social media marketing class. Yeah, you'd probably do better than Google. It's not that hard. Jamison says the AirPods Max are amazeballs. There's a new word. I'm going to use that more. And no real need for lossless. I've tried it and can't tell the difference. They do support spatial and Dolby Atmos, which I can tell the difference. Well, you can't technically play lossless on AirPods Max, so I wouldn't expect you to tell the difference. You would have to get a different pair of headphones. But I definitely think it's weird that there's a bit rate supported on Apple Music that there is no headphones Apple makes that supports the playback of that bit rate. That just feels a little unnecessary. August says, just take my Smartfolio off of my iPad and holy, insert bad word here, it's so thin. That's what I love about the Smartfolio cases being magnetic and stuff, because I love using my iPad without a case, just the thin, light weight of it. Like, it's the lightest 13-inch display you'll ever interact with. I don't know why we keep saying 12.9. We say 24-inch iMac, even though it's 23.5. We round up by half an inch there. and yet we don't want to round up by 0.1 inches with the iPad Pro. Can't we just start calling it the 13-inch iPad Pro? Is that such a big stretch? Martingale says, I think the iPhone right now is the most straightforward lineup. The iPad and MacBook line is confusing, especially with the Mac due to the Apple Silicon transition. Yeah, there's so many different... I mean, you have iPad, nothing. iPad Air, iPad Mini, and then iPad Pro, and there's 2 sizes of that. It is a little much, but, every market makes a little bit of sense. The iPad Air is good for the people who don't want to spend iPad Pro money. The iPad Mini is good for people, obviously, who want a more compact design. And then the budget iPad, which is just the iPad, is good. So, should we start calling the 12 Pro Max 7 inches? I don't know. I bet percentage-wise, that's a bigger roundup. But if it's down to like 0.1 inches, I don't think it's... Like, I don't know why we have to say 10.9 inches for the iPad Air and 11 inches for the iPad Pro. Can we just say, does anyone really care when it's that close? I'll round up for the 0.1 inches. So if there's an iPhone with a 6.9-inch display someday, I'll just go ahead and say it's a 7-inch display. Fox Miller Super Chat, says, what is all being cut from the Apple lineup? Should be quite a bit. I think we should expect all the iPhone 12s to be gone, probably the XR. I think its time has come. And Apple Watch Series 3, Series 6 probably both going to go away. Series 7 is going to replace the 6, and then the Series 3 is going to be too old. AirPods 2 might go away if we get AirPods 3. iPad Mini 5 will be cut if the Mini 6 does launch next week. And all the Intel Macs, obviously, got to go within the next year or so. But in terms of the next week, I think those are the main things we should expect to go away. I could be wrong. I'm actually very curious to see if they keep around the iPhone 12 as a cheaper option. I feel like that would sell probably pretty well. Have you seen the reports of the iPad Mini 6 being rebranded as the iPad Air 8.5? I haven't seen any report claiming that. I saw a few people speculating that might make sense because Apple thinks that the term mini is cursed because the 12 mini didn't sell well, but that doesn't make sense to me because the HomePod mini is selling great and the Mac Mini is doing great. So I don't think just because the 12 mini isn't selling good, that means that they can't call it the iPad Mini anymore. I think that's a fairly simple, easy name. iPad Mini. No need to change it. I don't want to say iPad Air 8.5 inches every time. That's too much. Do I think the SE2 will get a price cut? Last time it didn't because it was still brand new, but it might now. Relatively speaking, I don't think the original SE got a price cut, so I don't see why it would get one now. So I don't think so. I'd love to be wrong. It would be great if it did get cheaper, but I personally don't think so. I think it'll be $399 forever. I don't think, even with the 3rd generation SE and the 4th generation iPhone SE, I think $399 is about as low end as Apple's comfortable going. I think Series 6 will stay with a $100 price cut. SE will stay with an $80 cut, and Series 7 will be high end. That's an interesting theory, but pretty much ever since the Series 4, Apple has discontinued the flagship watch with every new release. You know, the Series 4 went away when the 5 came out. The Series 5 went away when the 6 came out. Series 2 went away when the 3 came out. So I guess the only exception is that one time the Series 4 dropped and they decided to keep the 3. But you may have a point there because the Series 4 was a redesign. So maybe it makes sense to keep the 6 if the Series 7 is a redesign. I didn't think about that. That's not a terrible theory. That actually makes a little bit of sense. I'm not going to say it's likely, but I kind of get it. It kind of adds up in my brain. How much of a price increase will we have with the iPhone Pro lineup? Worst case scenario, I'd say $100. I imagine $1,100 for the 13 Pro and $1,200 for the 13 Pro Max. I don't think that would dissuade anybody. People would be like, oh no. Anyway, they wouldn't really care. Thank you for becoming a member, Ralph Theodori. Wow, we got lots of members today. Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys. Yeah, I don't... there's a lot of people still saying there won't be a price hike. I just think it's safe to side on the plane of caution, just like, okay, if there's new features and inflation is a thing, the dollar is not worth what it was a year ago. There's been a lot of more dollars printed and added to the economy recently, so it kind of makes sense for the prices to go up in my opinion. But right now it's a toss-up. We're getting some people saying price hike, some people saying no price hike. Hopefully there isn't one, but just prepare that there will be, and then you won't be shocked. If you go into it assuming there won't be, you're just going to be ticked off if there is. iPhone 12 sales was the most successful and financially profitable launch of any Apple product ever. Reasonable, we'd expect a big drop-off in upgrades in the next 2 years. That makes sense to me. I don't know why, but there's a bunch of analysts and people right now saying, like, iPhone 13 is going to sell even better than the 12. And I'm like, really? I feel like people are holding on to their iPhones longer than before. Unless maybe Apple's just found a way to get people to start upgrading more regularly because cameras or the new design or something. I don't know. Maybe they intentionally knew the 12 would sell well, so they nuked the batteries on them, and that's why all the battery lives are worse across the lineup with the 12 series, so that they could get us all to upgrade this year with better battery life. It's pretty genius when you think about it. Apple's got a lot of geniuses in their stores. What can we expect at the event besides the new iPhones and AirPower? No! Ahab, there will no be AirPower. No, AirPower's dead. The existence of MagSafe has completely killed any purpose in AirPower. Literally, it would be a waste of time, especially with how many loop bands there are and how expensive AirPower is going to be. The tech is not ready, and it never will be. The only people who are able to even somewhat knock off AirPower had to make all kinds of compromises with charging and how many devices you can charge at once and thickness and price. It's dead. I don't like you trying to sneak all that in there. He's just like, oh, other than the iPhones and AirPower, what should we expect? No! It's dead. Give up. Now you guys get to all blame him for this live stream ending. I'm so insulted that the fact AirPower has even been brought up. I'm going to end the stream now. Yeah, there'll be videos later, but we're gonna wrap up now. We're gonna end the live stream over that comment single-handedly. So if you ever want future live streams to end, this is a good way to do it. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for all our incredibly generous super chats and all our members today. I had a ton of fun. It's been fun. It's been real. And I can say it's been real fun. So thank you all for tuning in. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.